You're listening to the Public Health Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley. Welcome to Public Health Entrepreneurs, the podcast for visionary leaders who are ready to transform public health and healthcare through innovation. I'm your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and as a public health entrepreneur with over 25 years of experience in healthcare and public health, I understand the unique challenges and opportunities that come with bridging multiple disciplines. If you are an interdisciplinary professional, a high-functioning leader with expertise across different fields, then you are in the right place. I'd like to share a story with you and the epiphany that came from this story. Actually, I'm going to give you two examples. On this podcast, I've often shared the importance of talking to your network, making sure that people that you know understand who you serve and the problem that you solve. So as consultants, I'm speaking specifically with consulting as an example, but this really applies whatever it is you do through your business. It's important that people understand what you do, the problem you solve, who your ideal audience or client member would be. That clarity is important. And we can't just assume that people know, like they know I have a business and they know I'm a consultant. They should understand what I do. Or maybe I explained it 6 years ago when I first started and they should understand. But that is our responsibility. And I think we need to really own that. And even when we think we're explaining in plain language and it's clear, we need to make sure that that's always the case. And this is a humbling move here because for someone who always talks about how I like explaining in plain language, I always am reminded that even though I think I'm clearly expressing it, it's not always the case. So, great couple of examples I'm going to share with you on this episode, and I hope that it resonates with you, and I hope that you will be willing to kind of check your conversation and make sure that you are putting the effort in to make sure that people understand, meeting them wherever they are. And sometimes people grasp the example of what you do very differently. Okay, so one example is, and this comes from me in a flurry of activities where I've had a lot of colleagues refer people to me. So these two examples are from, well, this one in particular is an example of a colleague of mine who understands clearly what I do. And she or he was having a conversation with someone else and thought, oh, they need to talk. They need to talk. You need to meet. And whenever that happens, that's the highest honor. When someone in your network understands what you do and then they refer you to someone else, when that person filters in through my website or through LinkedIn, then I automatically want to meet with them, especially when I know that the person who referred them or recommended them to me understands me really well. To me, that's a hot lead because there's something there. It's my job to figure out how I could possibly help them. So I did not talk to the person who recommended them. I just trusted their guidance. So in a discovery call, sometimes when you first, join, especially if you don't have the context, it's great when you have the context, but this is kind of maybe an advanced move, right? You don't exactly know. So you're exploring and you're trying to figure it out. And you really don't want to make assumptions at this point because you don't really know that person's background or anything. You just know that they landed on your calendar and it's time to have the conversation. So this person worked for an organization that I thought, okay, this is a nonprofit organization. It's a health-focused niche. And I thought, let's kind of start there. So, in the get to know you phase, I explained that I have a consulting firm. And, one of the ways that we help our clients is through community assessments. And community assessments have multiple different names. Some industries refer to them as a SWOT analysis, or it could be a population estimate. It could be a community health needs assessment. Essentially, and I was explaining to this person, essentially all organizations that are people serving, client facing, have serving populations will have some need to understand that population, the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the challenges, and whatever they label that as a SWOT analysis or whatever it is, it's an assessment of the community, a need to understand the community. And he goes, oh, okay, that makes sense. But I don't know that we have that issue. And at first I was like, what do you mean? Of course, this is their organization serves a population of people who have an infectious disease, a condition. So I'm like, surely this is a part of what you do. But this person works in policy and he just didn't see where that would make a difference. So I was able to give an example. I immediately began to kind of put the pieces together. I thought, okay, this is a policy person and he's thinking data, and it's already, you can tell when people feel like they don't want to talk about data because the wall goes up. I can tell. I see it all the time. So I just gave an example of, okay, as policy, when you're advocating for policy, for programs or services, whatever the case may be, you are driven because or you become aware of a gap or an issue. Either something is not being addressed to not meeting the needs of, this population. So you're advocating for some policy change so that these people can get what they need. Maybe it's access to services, medication, nutrition, something along those lines, right? So if we take it a step back, at some point, there was some sort of analysis done, some sort of investigation into this need and this service or this whatever it is to determine that it was lacking or not serving a certain person or population. And whenever that was conducted and that result came out, that got handed to you to say, hey, I advocate for this need because this is lacking. Well, I'm the person that helps do that research or conduct that analysis, determine where the strengths are and where the gaps are. And when I gave that example, then he began to really see, oh, I get what you're talking about. It turns out he was not necessarily the person for me to talk to, but he knew exactly who to connect me to because I took the time to give some examples that help him understand exactly what I could do and how I could help. And it did turn out that the organization had some issues there and needed some help. So my friend knew that, but it was just the wrong person connected. I say all that to say, because in that conversation, I could have ended it with, oh, it's really nice to meet you. And it could have been really awkward and left it there. But we're the experts at whatever it is that we do in our business. And we know the problems we solve. We know the challenges. And it didn't mean that I needed to pivot into something different. I just needed to help him understand how I could be of service. And then that helped him to know who to connect me with. So it's just because your friend or someone connects you or refers someone to you, that could be the ideal person for you to speak with. Or that could be another breadcrumb on the trail. So you follow the breadcrumbs. You meet with that person. You've connected with that person. That person now understands more about what I do. And it may come up in a future conversation with someone completely different. So the more people who understand the problem you solve and the services you provide through your business, the better off we are, because they're going to attract clients our direction. More we get closer and closer to those ideal people. So that mixture of people around us understand what we do, and they're all constantly having these moments to bring people into our proximity. So I'll give you another example. Now, this example was like spot on. And this person, same scenario, I was connected to. Actually, I had a little bit of backstory with my friend. We talked about this organization. She said, I don't know if it's something that you want to get involved in, but they would be really blessed if you were able to work with them. So she's like an ultimate hype kind of friend. She's going to hype me up. And I love that. You need those friends in your circle. And I was like, well, I don't know. I'd love to talk to them. I'm a problem solver. So let's see what comes up. And she explained the situation with this organization who basically had a big gap in leadership. So if I pause for just a moment, there are two areas that I am primarily focused on serving right now at this moment. One is in the area of community assessments, and that sometimes that could fall in like part of strategic planning. The other area is sort of capacity building. I facilitate workshops mainly on leadership and in workplace wellness, but really the leaders of organizations really providing that kind of support through really engaging workshops in small groups to help them, which also can lead to strategic planning, but really helping them to improve connections. It goes a long way in retention and just optimizing that work environment. And our industry is so stressed these days, especially with the shifts in the political climate of public health here. It's like mid-2025. It's just stressful times. So some companies are really investing in their leadership to make sure they can retain them, because it's hard to be in a transition phase or state for an organization when there's so much unrest. So at this organization, I say small, maybe a team of about 12 employees for this nonprofit organization serving this region. And so she explained that they had this gap in leadership and it was starting to create a lot of tension among the team members. And the contact that she wanted to introduce me to is someone had been there for a while and was more of a leader in this small team. And this person actually is close to me. So I said, sure, I'd love to meet with her and have a conversation. So for me, this is like, if I'm going to have some people on my calendar, these are high quality leads or connections. So if they're recommended by my network and I have some backstory, I at least want to have that exploratory conversation because it's an opportunity to further strengthen relationships for more people closer to me to understand what I do and possibly an opportunity for me to support and provide services. So this person lives close to me, lives in my town. And we got creative. She said, I have my kids are out of school, but she really wanted to meet right away. She said, if I have to wait for someone to watch them for us to meet alone, it'd be several weeks before she could do that. But she said, if you're willing to be creative, then, maybe we could meet at a park and I'll buy you a coffee and my kids can play and we can talk. So I was all for it because sometimes you need to shake things up a little bit too. So we made the plans. I met with her. It was really nice. It was a really nice enclosed park, actually. I'll have to keep that in mind for future. But her kids were great and they ran around and she bought my coffee and we sat and we began to talk. And part of me is just intrigued just because I'm doing something different. It's not a Zoom call. It's not my conference room in my office downtown. It's not just a standard meeting. It's something different. So that was a little exciting and refreshing. And we connected on a very human level. And I so appreciated her creativity and I know she appreciated my willingness to make this happen. So it was really nice. We were, we sat down and we started to just chat about the chit chat that you do to get to know people. And she began to talk about the changes. It was her venting a bit about the frustration and kind of a little backstory to the organization. And I got a lot of information. So at one point I thought, okay, this is like such a broad story. I'm trying to find the connection. Like, what can I possibly do for them? And I just kept listening. And again, I'm very clear in these two areas where I can provide support. And I already knew it wasn't really in the community assessments side of things. I realized that the problem that was really standing out was in this capacity building. And I was really trying to figure out how I could be of service. So I listened a little bit more to ask a few questions about the team dynamic. And then I came up with a great idea, which was very similar to how I supported another organization just recently, actually. And I listened and then I proposed a solution and she really got excited about my suggestion for this capacity building, this workshop, how I could solve this problem or be of assistance. It wasn't like I just make all their problems perfect or solve all the problems and come up with the perfect solution. It was just that I knew that I could help in this area. So it was a solution to a problem that they were experiencing. And it was a custom fit for them, but it was still very aligned with what I do. And I loved in the moment how I was clear about what I could do. I was ready to walk away from that meeting having just met another person that was really awesome. But I did hear in listening to her an opportunity to provide the services that I provide in a way that would support. So she didn't come to me asking me for that solution. She didn't know what I'd be able to do, but she knew she had this problem and her friend said that it recommended me and that I could possibly help. She didn't know what that would look like. But as I listened to her, I was able to propose a solution that I thought was a great fit. So that was wonderful. She got excited. 2 days later, she was going to be meeting with the interim leader and she was going to pass that proposal along. And she got buy-in from that. They thought it was a great idea. And so it now moved along to get final approval. And we'll see what happens. But I know that I left that conversation, I left that appointment excited because it was something different. It was like an outing. I've been on a field trip is what it felt like. And I met this really nice, genuinely nice person and her wonderful kids. And that just felt refreshing. Anytime we can really put that human touch and that human connection on the work we do, it feels great. And then I proposed something that was a great custom fit for that organization, something that I felt good about, something that they were excited about. And even if it doesn't get the final approval, I feel great. It's still very successful to be able to provide a solution and an opportunity to have that conversation and to pitch myself and my services to someone that was referred to me. And back to that first example that I gave you, it may turn into something, it may not be right now. It may be down the road, more connections. But these are the mixture of conversations that we should continue to have and strive to have with people in our network. It's about, we have to own how we express and explain what we do. And it's not just a one size fits all, but we do, we have to remain clear on whatever services we provide. For example, if you are a grant writer and your services is providing grant writing services to nonprofits or cities or whatever your clients are, and maybe you focus on city and state, but you don't do federal, then if you're in a conversation where someone's talking about a federal grant and that's not your expertise in your area, then don't just try to merge over there because you're in the conversation. You stay in wherever you decide your lane is or you decide your area of expertise are, unless, you make a conscious decision to stretch out of that. But I'm just saying that being clear about what you do and what you offer and your skill set is really important in the problem that you solve. And having these conversations, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have these conversations. They must move beyond a social media post, and they must move past just like an email. You need to have conversations, whether it's a Zoom call, because the first example was a Zoom call. The second example was face-to-face. And the more you practice talking to people, explaining your services, providing proposals and solutions and pitching, the better you are going to become in business development, which is our responsibility as CEO, right? Bring in the clients that align with the products and services that you're offering, the services, because we're all service-based businesses here. But I hope these story examples are helpful for you, because I think these experiences, and I've got more to share, and I'll continue on the episodes to come, but these experiences, I think, help to solidify some of the things that I've been talking about on multiple episodes in the past. So continue to have conversations, explore opportunities, make sure that you are pitching your services. You're clear about the clients that you want to work with, the solution, the problem that you're solving, what your solution is, and realizing that you need to clarify that with the people that you speak with to make sure that they understand what you do. So modifying your language when you need to and giving examples so that people really clearly understand. It is so worth the effort, because then you get to the point where the more people that you are able to get clarity with, then the higher quality leads they're showing up on your calendar, and your sales conversations become more and more impactful. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know. Send me a message, comment on social media, or send us a message through the website. I'd love to hear your feedback. Let me know how this is helping, and if you want to hear more of these types of episodes. I have more examples lined up in the weeks to come. So that is all for right now. So be sure to tune in to the next episode for more strategic insights to help you on your journey of entrepreneurship. All right, everyone. Until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Visit publichealthentrepreneurs.com to learn more.